Hello there guys and welcome, it is Niran here and today it is time for finally a bit of F1 2015 news. Today finally Codemasters released a bit of news on their blog, and to be fair, it's nothing absolutely spectacular when it comes to career mode or online, but it's intriguing. It is actually really interesting, and I think if they can actually pull these things off, they've made some pretty decent steps moving forward on to next gen. So I'm going to just jump straight into it. Loads of people have probably done this video. I'll also leave a link to the blog post itself in the description below. But the first thing they announced was that the game will in fact be released in June. It's probably what a lot of people have been expecting, even from when they announced that the game would be out around about spring or summer. Sort of just assumed it would be around about June. It's just about after most people's exams are finished. It's still quite tricky for me. Hopefully it's last week of June, then I can absolutely spam some videos out, otherwise it might be a little bit tricky for me personally. But yeah, it was something that people were expecting a lot, especially with how much they've delayed releasing any information. People thought it might even be released in July, not even June. They've also, confirmed it will, of course, be for next-gen Xbox One and PlayStation 4, as well as PC, but of course will also be made for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. So those guys on current gen will be absolutely fine if you don't have a next-gen console. Now, of course, in the background, you'll be seeing some screenshots of early access that have been released. You'll be seeing those in the background throughout the whole video. They, of course, were announced. There was one for F1 2015, which was a pit stop for Nico Rosberg. There was also a screenshot of the Mexico track. I think it was the pit lane or the start-finish straight. And then also two F1 2014 revamp, if you like, pictures. I'll get into that in a little bit. But they claimed on the blog itself that this would be a significant step forward for visuals and physics-based handling model. Now, we sort of assumed that would be coming. Moving on from current gen to next gen, that's always going to be something that's almost automatically going to be the case, is that there will be a massive improvement on the physics and the handling. Whether that's something that Codemasters actually needed to focus on is another story, because their physics and handling has always been pretty good. It's been sort of the career mode, the online stuff that have been a little bit sort of sketchy in the last few years. The physics and handling have got much better since F1 2010, and we've all really known that. However, they have announced what will be affected by this new model, and it's going to be mainly a new tyre physics model. Now, this actually, on the face of it, sounds kind of boring and dull, but it may lead into other things. So tyres are now sensitive to wear. They've always been that. Setup, that is the same. Weather, exactly the same there. But now tyre temperatures and also debris. Now, forgetting about debris first off, because that's a rant for another little section. Temperature, I don't know whether that means track temperature or the tyre temperature, because obviously when you first come out the pit lane, the tyre temperatures are very cold. You struggle a little bit for the first few corners. Makes sense. It's the same in real life. After the blankets come off, that makes sense. If that is sensitive as well to track temperature, that is really interesting, because you do tend to get track temperature changes, of course, in real life, and perhaps those track temperatures, if it gets colder, you may not feel as much grip. Now, that would be a really awesome improvement if that is the case, if they can actually pull it off. The second thing, though, debris. Now, that actually, first of all, when you think of F1 now, that makes no sense, because like with the game as it is now, you can run over a piece of front wing, nothing would happen. Of course, in real life, you would get a puncture. So, does that mean we are getting a new, at least realistic, damage model as well that sort of comes in a package with the tyre model, or at least just a new sensitive version of last year's damage model? Something that people have been asking for a lot was a new damage model, of course, moving on to next gen. That was something that people sort of just assumed was going to be the case. Not necessarily, but with this new sort of affected by debris tyre model, we could be seeing punctures just literally from running over small pieces of front wings. That is something to bear in mind. We could be seeing a new, more complex, or at least highly sensitive damage model that comes along with this sort of tyre physics model. The other areas of improvement for this model include engine, transmission, aerodynamics, fuel tank, force feedback, and suspension. They'll probably be small things you won't particularly notice. One thing that may come along with those things as well is mechanical failures, especially when it comes to sort of engine, transmission, and suspension. You may actually start to see this may sort of tie in with mechanical failures as well. It's something that I would quite like to see, because you don't really see them very often on F1 2014. You do actually occasionally see AI sort of drivers just retiring randomly, and that's quite cool. You get the brake failures as well sometimes, as well as engine sort of malfunctions when a driver has like no straight line speed. That was more prominent on F1 2013 actually, not so much on F1 2014. But yeah, that would be something. More complex mechanical failures could, it's not obviously been confirmed, but that would be something that I would like to see and perhaps would come along with these new improvements. So past that, we've got new broadcast style presentation. Now this is going to make my videos personally a lot easier to make, because now we're going to get new cinematics, is what that means. So when you open up, when you go into a new race, you won't get the sort of normal cinematics you've been seeing of the track. You might get different ones. You might even get sort of a TV channel style format, all of that sort of thing. But what that does come with, the main thing that comes with, is podiums and grid sequences. Let off some fanfare in the background, because finally us F1 gamers have got podiums. It's taken 10 odd years across various different game producers, but finally we have got podiums on an F1 game. In fact, I think podiums were on F1 2002. So like 13 years we've been waiting for this, and finally we're going to have podiums on F1 2015. It has been confirmed. We'll also be seeing grid sequences. A lot of people have jumped to the conclusion that might mean grid walks. I don't think it will. I think it'll just literally be grid sequences sort of moving through the field. Not entirely sure. It would be very cool if we did get grid walks. But you know, the sort of cinematics you get when when the drivers are about to move off to start the warm-up lap, where they're sort of being cooled down, they've got their visors up, they're just sitting in the cars, and the name of the driver comes up. We might be seeing little things like that as opposed to massive grid walks. So that is something huge. A new game mode. I won't ponder on this too much because it wasn't really explained, but there's going to be a new game mode called Pro Season Mode. Don't know what that is. We'll find out more information about that in the near future, I'm sure. It does sound very interesting. Hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully it's just not a new name for scenario mode, but it does sound fairly interesting. It would be quite nice to see what that is in the coming months, in the coming weeks. But the last big thing, as well as the fact that you'll already know there will be 2014 cars and drivers on this game. That's what I was alluding to earlier as bonus content. They'll also be delivered with the new engine or the new model, sort of built from the ground up sort of thing. They won't just be the cars that you got on current gen last year. They'll be sort of rebuilt, if you like, reprocessed on the game to look as good as the F1 2015 cars do. But the last big thing is that you can now interact with your engineer through your headset on next gen. I don't think this will be the case on current gen, but you will now be able to actually talk to your engineer on next gen through your headset about various things. It seems as if it's a wide range of things you can talk about, but what they released as things you could talk about were race info, which I'm guessing means sort of drivers, where specific people stand in the race, and how many laps to go, how many laps gone, etc. Weather updates, which is really cool, tyre status, requesting tyres, or even front wing changes, plus much more supposedly. So that's something I'm really excited about if they can pull it off. A lot of people quite skeptical already. They probably won't be able to do that to an effective degree, but hopefully they'll be able to pull that off, at least across coming and future F1 games. So that is everything. That's pretty much you guys up to date now with everything that's been released today, released on Thursday, yesterday, as I hopefully as you're watching this. Feel free to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, and comment about your thoughts as well on the news as well. Comment about the video if you enjoyed it that much too. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. But it has been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a good day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.